it was just interesting, the number of people that watched the video up on YouTube and chatted things. And it's been good for us because we've met a lot of people that have similar problems. So I want to keep this thing going as long as we can. We're really kind of happy with it. Given our schedules around here and the fact that we're the only ones kind of emceeing or monitoring or adminning this sort of thing, the next one will be on the 15th next month, which is a Monday, which is the greatest day in the world, in this same time slot. So hopefully that'll work for folks. That's 2:45 in the afternoon, Austin time. We're in Austin, Zojo's in Austin, so we're going to be egotistical and say it's the center of the universe, and you guys are going to have to adjust. Sorry about that. Like I was saying earlier, August is bug month. If you could pass the word to people, whack the love. We love web bugs, so they get a little more weight than the average bear. We truly appreciate that. I know that poor Ricardo's probably saying no, but Ricardo. I want to say once again, I am so glad that you're on the job. We 6-7 months ago, we were ready to just throw it in and walk away, and it's completely changed for us. So that's pretty good. Last thing before we get started, would love someone to present next time for the next month. I'm personally particularly interested in seeing how you build a simple control from scratch, wrap it up in JavaScript and all that sort of stuff, because that's really alien to me. I mean, I pretty much spoon-fed Zojo in the beginning by Jeff. So when I get outside of Zojo, I start to pull my hair out and that sort of thing. So if anybody has anything that they do particularly well or want to present, please reach out to me before the next week or so, and let's see what we can come up with, so we can have some more verified or more diversified content on the next special interest group meeting. All right. With that, I will tell you, we have, I think, 15 digital servers as of this moment. We use Tim Parnell's Lifeboat for everything. We tried Zojo Cloud. We just pushed it a little too hard. We were doing things that they couldn't support for everybody. And then we were moving everything the hard way up to AWS, and Tim's tool has been an absolute godsend. And anytime we discovered a bug, he jumps on it, and we ask for more features, and poor Tim grumbles and does them anyway. So he's a pretty good guy. With that, I'll leave it over to him, and I'll let him share the screen and present Lifeboat.
Hello. Can everyone see my screen all right?
Yes, we are.
Okie doke. Well, welcome to Lifeboat. I figured it would be good to do a quick overview of what you do after pressing build. How you get up and get started with Lifeboat that way. If anybody has any specific Lifeboat questions along the way, feel free to ask. It was kind of, Jay wanted a technical, detailed, in-depth overview, and I don't know how many people actually want that. So we're going to do a quick overview and answer questions as we go. So I've got a static IP on Lightsail so that the DNS is already set up. If you need to review how to set up your DNS, my videos that I've made already will show you how to do that. Here we're going to assume that you've got your DNS configured. So we're going to create an instance on Lightsail. We're going to pick OS only because we don't need anything else. And my personal favorite flavor is Debian. We're going to use a new SSH key pair just so I can show you how that works. Generate a key pair. You download the private key and you're going to save it somewhere where you're going to get to it. I'm just going to leave it in downloads for now. Actually, we're going to move that. We're going to move it to the desktop. So you need the private key file to log into the server. So you want to hang on to that till we configure it in Lifeboat. Pick the size that you need. You'll find that more intense apps are going to work better with better servers just basic. We'll create the instance. While that's working, we can get started with Lifeboat. We'll give it a name. And we're gonna import the SSH key. So we'll manage our SSH keys. And it's just a drag and drop import right there. When we close the SSH keys window, it selects it for us. So we can get the username from the Connect tab in Lightsail. We're going to do admin. And we're going to attach. Oh, is it not started yet? Oh, lovely. It's not started yet. There we go. We're going to attach the static IP address that I have. And now my domain will work. Another thing we need to do is open up the firewall for HTTPS requests. That's specific to Lightsail. DigitalOcean has a service level firewall, but you have to set that up in a different manner. So we're going to copy our IP address. We're going to paste it into Lifeboat. And we're going to connect to our server. It's found the server and it's going to ask us to install all of the features. This is where it basically does that install script. If anybody has been with my building of Lifeboat for a long time, you'll know that it started out as an install script a couple of years ago. And I built that script and then realized that I write software, so why not write software to run the script for me and configure everything? And thus Lifeboat was born. So it's still going to take another minute. That was my attempt to kill some time. Does anybody have any questions so far?
Yeah, Tim, it seems a whole lot easier on DigitalOcean.
I mean, it's just got, they don't have the firewall step really.
Is that the only difference? Because, man, we throw these things up. We've thrown them up as a rate of 4 or 5 in a day when we're in a rush to get stuff moved off to AWS.
That really is, yeah. The static IP address is something that you can do on DigitalOcean, and the only reason I did it already is because DNS was taking a long time to update. So I wanted to be able to request the certificate and all that today while we were live on the meeting.
Gotcha. Well, I'm looking at ours now. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18 servers running. And so it's been our only problem is sometimes we're fighting each other, you know, because there's a limitation on how many users can be using the tool at any given second. We're yelling at each other. You know, are you in Lifeboat? But, Tim solved that with the last one. At least tells you who to go yell at.
Exactly. Yeah, Norman asked for that. He's like, "Can you tell me who's using it?" And I was like, "I certainly can."
Go ahead.
So once Lifeboat gets set up, all you need to do is configure your name, your address, and the web app, and your web app is running. So my address happens to be theapplegeek.com. So we set SSL to force, and Lifeboat will request a certificate and configure Nginx for us. That means that we don't have to do SSL checking inside the app. We just rely on Lifeboat to force users to the secure layer.
And Tim, that renews it, right?
And it does set it up for automatic renewal, yes. So the domain is set, the SSL certificate was requested. then we just upload the web app. And I have an app I wrote that just shows you what your IP address is. And it's, again, just a drag and drop procedure. Select the domain for it to run on. And when you hit stage, it will upload everything. This checkbox is the executable. Lifeboat attempts to find it, but if it fails, you need to select the correct executable with a checkbox. But if you just drop a build folder straight out of Zojo, the Lifeboat will find it. So it checks to see any files that are on the server. It compares the hashes of them so that if you build with a newer version of Lifeboat, newer version of Zojo, or you update your plugins, or for some reason something other than the executable has changed, Lifeboat will grab that too. But during the update procedure, it only grabs files that have changed, so that you don't have to wait for the whole upload procedure to happen again. So it's faster when it's updating, which is very handy if you're testing lots of updates.
And this is, how's this, what's the background mechanism there? Is that SFTP or what are we doing to it?
Right now it is SFTP uploading. The SFTP library I use is an open source wrapper around libssh2. And as I was experimenting with it, the only way I could get it to not crash is by making it really, really slow. So I am very well aware that it is slower than an SFTP program, but it doesn't crash. I don't know why making it any faster crashes. So I use this open source library. I've even contributed changes to it. And it does everything for us so that we can drag, drop, and click a few buttons to get our app running.
In a speed hinge, you could just load it up to the right directory and restart it? Or do you need to send it through Lightsail without screwing anything up?
If you're updating it and you're connected to SFTP or SSH, really, you have to restart the service.
Okay.
It's been asked in the chat if there's a possibility of a Linux version of Lifeboat. There is not, because I don't have a Linux version of this RB lib SSH2. It's not coming to Linux. There's no market for it. So when the app finishes uploading, it launches right in the browser. That's a setting you can turn off if you don't want it. But that's evidence that our app is now running. So that's all it takes to get an app running, and to drag, drop, upload. You can also host a regular website at the address. So we would create a static files and click save. And you can upload your HTML directly inside Lifeboat. And now there is a regular website running right next to your web app on the same instance. And so you can do clever things with that so that you have all of your websites running next to all of your apps. And that's exactly what happens with Strawberry Software. The main Strawberry Software website is right next to a running instance of TPLM, my license server, written in Zojo Web. And they're all running from Lifeboat. So that's how Lifeboat can make it really fast to update an app. You can just go back in, configure, update app files, drag in your new update and hit stage, and it will upload and update your app. As easy as that. That is my short, quick presentation on Lifeboat. Does anybody have questions about specific implementation things, or does anybody have any general questions? I'm happy to answer anything you want to know about it. I'm so bad at talking about my own creations.
I have a question, Tim. You just released a new version a few days ago, right?
Yeah.
And I could see in your presentation that you have an options button in the application configuration. I don't have that button because I'm looking for these environment variables, this new feature. And apparently it doesn't appear. It doesn't appear in my Lifeboat app. It's the new one. So my question to you is, what do I have to do to make this visible?
I very much so understand your confusion. That options button is actually a dangerous options button and is not available to anybody else except for me.
Oh, okay.
It's app breaking options. So like things that I need to do to break the app. That it's nothing you want, I promise you.
But the environment variable works very much the same way. It doesn't show up unless you dig into the documentation and it says
that is correct. The
to prove
environment
you read the
variables,
documentation, do this.
yes, the environment variables, the button is hidden. You go into the documentation to read about how to open it. Oops, not website, help, user guide. And so the secret to it is you select an app, you press Control and Shift, and you click Configure. That tells Lifeboat that yes, I have read the manual. Please read the manual about how to use the environment variables. But that is how you activate the environment variable feature.
Oh,
and then
now
it's
I
just
see
a list
yeah.
box. And you can
Okay.
you can add. I can actually have an app for it.
And these environment variables are application specific?
Yes, they are specific to the application. You won't see them if you oh, why is it not there? I used to have an app that was testing the environment variables. They're specific to the application. They are configured in the systemd service for it. So each application is going to have its own unique set of custom environment variables.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So if I put an environment variable 1, 2, 3, 4, and its value is ABCD, right? If I do that and I make another app, that second app is not going to be able to read those environment variables because they're only in the first app. So what you can do is you can use that to have multiple instances of the same app, but if they need to do different things, like maybe not charge a credit card in debug mode, you can pass that kind of variable through the environment variables, and your Zojo web app, even though it's the same build, now knows that it's a debug build and credit card transactions should not be finalized.
Yes.
The best thing we found was the log files. We drove Tim nuts for a week until they showed us where they were.
You mean right click show log?
Yeah.
You want
That simple system printout will print it out. And we, it was one of the things that drove us crazy on Zojo Cloud is when something was happening, we couldn't get out the damn logs. And I don't know whether they've changed that or not, but now we can just we just print out to the system and we can go read it and we can figure out it's not a damn, why is it not working? Try again. Damn, why is it not working? We could put intelligence in there and then laugh at our own stupidity for why it wasn't working.
Zojo Cloud is great for if you don't want to deal with anything. If you want an easy button, you want to click deploy and you want to see it run, Zojo Cloud's for you. But if you have a need where you need to fix something, if it goes wrong, or you need to expand outside of what they offer, that's when something like Lifeboat can help you out. So, like if you need to fix something, yeah, you want Lifeboat, but if you want to just press deploy, and you can justify the cost, I can certainly see how having Zojo staff manage all of that has its benefits.
Can you poke through the apps you have, the server tools? Just quickly walk through those.
Yeah, sure. So the first is the command section, which you can clear the caches to recover the free RAM, restart the server. Configuration lets you set the time zone. Setting the time will break the daylight saving synchronization, so that's another one of those you don't have access to that features unless you email me. I can enable these features for you if you want them, but they're server breaking, you have to email me. And then there's the Nginx configuration where you can turn on and off gzip compression. That affects the content length header. So if you have a download system that's not working completely correctly, sometimes that switch helps. Hide server tokens, which is, it will hide the Nginx version information, but it doesn't exactly hide the word Nginx. It's to hide the version tokens. That gets misunderstood sometimes. And then the last one is Lifeboat application offline page. It's the magic, I can actually show it to you. If we go to the app while it's offline, there's this beautiful Lifeboat offline page, which is actually in the background checking to see when your app comes back. So the reason you can disable it is because it has that JavaScript. But the neat thing about it is if you start your app and somebody sees this page, all of your users all at the same time get the app when it comes back to life.
Didn't know that. Cool.
So I had someone request that you disable that because of the JavaScript. So I was like, sure. And so you can turn that off there. Edit config is another one of those Tim buttons. And then you can schedule your cron jobs. You can run them daily, hourly, weekly, and monthly. This just uses the cron D folders. And so it just saves your script as a file in those folders. So the time that it runs varies from flavor to flavor. You have to Google your flavor to find out when those run. You can install MariaDB and Postgres, install PHP. You can change the port that SSH is open on. So if you don't want it to be the default one, you can change that. Secure authentication it's really, I use it with DigitalOcean servers where someone set it up with a password. This will disable password authentication and set up SSH key authentication all in one click. So it saves like 10 minutes of poking around. And that's a one-way function. You can only do that one way. And then lastly is the software updates, which will do apt update or yum update. This is a brand new server, so of course there's software to be updated. And so those are what the tools are. I use them a lot. I love my Lifeboat. I really do. I'm so bad at talking about it. It really
one
can
question.
run your entire network because it runs my entire network.
Great.
Go ahead.
I have one question. The configuration of all this stuff, is that stored on the server or is it stored locally on the developer machine?
So it's a Lifeboat. It was a design decision when I built it that Lifeboat would store its own copy of the configuration and then write things out that it needs. So it's actually stored in a database called lifeboat.db inside the application support folder. And there's a synchronization feature which will use something like Dropbox to synchronize that database across all of your computers. So if you have like a laptop and a desktop, you use super simple sync to keep the Lifeboat database in sync between them.
Okay, great.
Jay uses it to keep it in sync between his company, but as he was trying to mention before, there's a drawback. Only one instance of Lifeboat can be connected at a time, because if you make changes, it writes it to the database. And you don't, it's not good to connect to a SQLite database directly in Dropbox. So what it does is it takes it out of Dropbox, connects it in a temporary location, and puts it back when you quit, which is why it has that one user at a time drawback. So
Okay,
it's stored locally and then written out to the server as needed.
Somebody had something there?
I have another question. Is it also working for non-Xojo apps?
It lets you install PHP, so you can run a normal website with like HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and PHP. But as far as web applications, it only runs Xojo. It doesn't do like a live code or FileMaker application, however those web apps may work.
Yeah, in my case, it would be Vaadin Java application, which I would like to manage also with Lifeboat.
I don't happen to know how those web applications work, so I don't have support for them in Lifeboat, no. But PHP things run, like I use Mantis. Mantis runs just fine. And I tested installing WordPress. I've never actually used WordPress. I hate WordPress. But it installs.
Everybody hates WordPress.
I hope
me.
so.
Yeah, I hate it only slightly less than I hate PowerPoint.
What a wonder.
Where does Lifeboat get deployed? What servers are these?
So they're your own servers. You can host them you can use a service that are like Lightsail or DigitalOcean.
Have you ever tried using them with Bluehost?
I have not tested with Bluehost, but if Bluehost offers a VPS option, you would be able to, in theory, to do it. I just don't test it on Bluehost.
A DigitalOcean can get pretty damn cheap, so if it's,
Let's try enabling
really
JavaScript.
cheap.
Yeah, VPS hosting. So you'd use their VPS hosting option at Bluehost to use Lifeboat. You would not be able to use something like shared hosting because they already install and manage the like web server software.
That would be my problem, that that's what I already have. So I'd have to rejigger that or just move the domains.
You could rejigger it into Lifeboat if Lifeboat has everything that supports it. You just create a static file that is your website. If you take off the path here from the web path where it says static, it becomes the main website. The only problem is it's in use.
Yeah, well, I've got multiple domains, so they have different paths. So that I could take that
I
off.
run my entire network out of Lifeboat. Strawberry Software, Xojo.dev goes to Xojo Consulting. I've got several websites and web apps running out of my main Lifeboat instance. It's doable. I don't know how much work it would be for you or if it's anything you want to do, but it is doable to host your regular website right next to your web apps with Lifeboat. So now the way I just reconfigured that, the main website is now that, and the domain, the app is not running. We got questions in chat, I think. What is a simple way to have two apps with the same domain? Do you have to make a subdomain? Yes, it's a limitation of Zojo Web that you have to run it at the base of the domain. So you would have to add another subdomain. So my domain 2.theapple.com. We won't request the SSL. So you would have one app at one domain and one app at the other domain, and that's how you do it with Lifeboat and Zojo Web. Oh, and Alberto answered that. Okay, cool. Thanks, Alberto.
One last question, Tim. Load balancing and multiple instances and stuff like that.
Load balancing is you just change the instances here from 1. You should only change it to as many CPUs as you have, really, because if you make it more than the number of CPUs you have, you're not getting an advantage. But to load balance, I would just change it to 2 and then hit stage. And so then there would be 2 instances running, and Nginx will handle making sure user A goes to the same instance as they always are, and user B is going to the same instance. So you just change this one number and it handles everything about load balancing for you. So that's one of the simple things. It's not all simple. I tried to make it easy, but that one is simple.
Sounds really good. All right, guys, anything else, anybody? Try and keep these things short and sweet. For what it's worth, I mean, we love it. And so we wanted Tim to force it out to the world and, you know, make it even better. So we really do like it. So, all right, like I said, again, the next meeting will be on the 15th of August. And so if someone would please pop up in the next week, if you've got something you're doing that's pretty cool you want to share, or if anybody knows how to build components from scratch, I'm going to find that guy in the next week. So I've already approached Anthony and he said, nah, I'm too busy. I'm like, damn. So, yeah. And you know, Ricardo, I see you're putting a presentation on at the developers meetup. If you want to do a sort of little dry run beforehand to make sure that the presentation is completely understandable, we love it. So.
Yeah, sure. I think we can create something, at least for as a beginning.
Wonderful.
To your journey.
Yeah, Ricardo is one for that.
All right, guys, if that's not it, anybody any last questions or anything? And if not, we'll be on our way.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, everyone.
All right. Have a
Thank
good
you.
day.
You too.
Yeah, thank you, Timmy.
You're welcome. Bye.